If you're sued tomorrow, here's exactly what happens to your assets. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the one shift that the wealthy make that completely changes the outcome. Let's start with the problem. If you own a business, or rental properties, or you've personally guaranteed loans, you're exposed. You may feel fine right now, profitable, stable, calm waters, but lawsuits don't send courtesy emails. One day it's business as usual, the next day you're served. Even very successful people have no idea what actually happens next. The promise in this video is simple. By the end, you'll understand step by step what happens after a lawsuit is filed, what discovery really exposes, what judges can and cannot do, and how sophisticated families legally shift leverage before trouble strikes. Now, here's the path we'll follow. What actually happens the moment you're sued, how discovery exposes your financial life, why LLCs alone often fail under pressure, how equity stripping changes negotiation power, how offshore asset protection, specifically Cook Islands trust structures, shifts jurisdiction and leverage. I've been in the asset protection field for 35 years. I'm the CEO of the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and Asset Protection Planners. We've set up more Cook Islands trusts, so they tell me in the Cook Islands, than any firm in the world. And I've personally been setting them up for 30 years. So this isn't theory, this is what happens in real life. So let's walk through it calmly before you ever need it. Chapter 1, the day you're sued. When someone files a lawsuit against you, 3 things happen immediately. You're served. Your insurance carrier is notified if you have one. The legal clock starts ticking. Now here's what most people misunderstand. Being sued doesn't mean that you lose. It means you enter a process, and that process is expensive. According to the U.S. Chamber Institute for Legal Reform, the average business lawsuit can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in defense costs alone, even if you win. But the bigger issue isn't just defense costs, it's exposure. Because within weeks, you enter a phase called discovery. And discovery is where things get very uncomfortable. In a moment, I'll explain exactly what they can demand from you and why most business owners are shocked. Chapter 2, what discovery actually exposes. Discovery is the legal mechanism that allows the other side to request documents, records, and sworn testimony. They can request bank statements, brokerage accounts, property ownership records, business financials, loan documents, emails, tax returns, asset transfers. If it touches money, it's fair game. Now pause for a second. If someone looked at your full financial picture today, what would they see? Would they see $3 million in exposed rental equity, personal guarantees, cash in a U.S. bank account, a clean balance sheet? Discovery isn't just about facts, it's about leverage. If a plaintiff's attorney sees substantial exposed assets, settlement demands rise. If they see limited reachable assets, the conversation changes, and here's the cliffhanger. In a few minutes, I'll show you how sophisticated structures change what discovery reveals legally. But first, let's talk about a common misconception. So chapter 3, why LLCs alone often fail. Now, LLCs are useful. I love LLCs. We set them up every day of the week. But they're not magic shields. An LLC protects you from inside liability, meaning if your rental property has a slip and fall, the plaintiff typically sues the LLC. But here's the issue. If you personally guaranteed a loan, if you committed alleged negligence, if you're named individually, if you commingled funds, now you're personally exposed. Even if the LLC is respected, what about the equity inside of it? A judgment creditor may pursue charging orders, distributions, or force pressure points. And here's something that most people don't think about. Even if the LLC protects ownership, the equity inside is still visible during discovery. Invisibility changes leverage. Leverage drives settlement value. So the question becomes, how do sophisticated families reduce leverage without doing anything illegal or deceptive? And that's where equity positioning comes in. Okay, chapter 4, equity stripping changes the optics. Now, equity stripping sounds aggressive. It's not, it's math. Let's say you own a property worth $2 million with no mortgage. That means you have $2 million in exposed equity. Now imagine that property is encumbered by a legitimate mortgage lien payable to a separate entity, one that is structured strategically. So what does that mean? What does that discovery show? Instead of $2 million in exposed equity, it shows significantly reduced net equity. So why does that matter? Because plaintiffs evaluate what can realistically be collected, how expensive will it be to pursue, and is the juice worth the squeeze? If equity is tied up, leverage declines. At our firm, we work with high net worth clients. Each U.S. property is typically placed into a land trust for privacy. The beneficiary is a state-specific LLC for liability separation, and legitimate mortgage liens can be recorded to reduce exposed equity. Now, here's the key detail. These mortgage proceeds don't sit casually in a domestic checking account. They flow strategically into an offshore structure, which brings us to the next level, Chapter 5, how offshore trusts shift jurisdiction. Now, this is where most people get confused and where wealthy families quietly operate. A Cook Islands Trust is an offshore asset protection trust formed under the laws of the Cook Islands, a jurisdiction that does not recognize U.S. court judgment. So let me say it clearly. A U.S. judgment does not automatically apply there. Now, before anybody panics, this is not about hiding assets or evading taxes. This is about jurisdiction. Jurisdiction determines which court has authority. When properly structured in advance, assets transferred into a Cook Islands Trust are governed by Cook Islands law. And Cook Islands law has unique characteristics. Short statute of limitations for fraudulent transfer claims, high burden of proof on the creditor, requirement that the creditor litigate locally. And that is a radically different playing field. And here's how we structure it. We establish a Cook Islands Trust. Inside the trust, we establish a Cook Islands LLC. The trust owns 100% of an LLC. Now, this may be repetitive for you if you've seen my videos before, but it's important to really understand. When the waters are calm, you as the client are the manager of that LLC, okay? You control investment decisions, you direct activity, but when the lawsuit strikes, our licensed bonded trustee company, law firm, and I say our, that's the one we use over and over again, they step in, control shifts. Why? Because as the manager of the LLC and the trustee of the trust over here, when the U.S. court says, give me the money, the offshore trustee is not inside the jurisdiction. They're outside of the U.S. jurisdiction. Therefore, they cannot be pressured by U.S. courts. And that shift alone changes the leverage dramatically. So in a moment, I'll explain what judges can and cannot do in the scenario. But first, let me make something very clear. Timing is everything. And then now we get to Chapter 6, the timing factor. Asset protection works best before the storm. If you transfer assets after being sued, courts examine intent. Fraudulent transfer laws exist to prevent abuse. But proactive planning done when there's no active claim is lawful and common among sophisticated families. And according to various surveys of family offices, asset protection planning is a routine component of wealth management. It's not dramatic, it's boring, which is exactly what you want your precision plan to feel like. If you wait until after you're sued, options narrow. If you plan ahead, leverage shifts. And here's the question that most viewers are thinking. Can a judge actually force you to do this? Can they actually force you to turn over the money? So let's answer that directly. Chapter 7, what judges can and cannot do. A U.S. judge has authority over you personally, your U.S.-based entities, your U.S.-based bank accounts. They can freeze domestic accounts, issue turnover orders, compel testimony, but they do not have direct authority over foreign trustees governed by foreign law. Could they pressure you? Yes. Could they hold you in contempt if you have control and refuse to comply? Potentially. And that's why structure matters. If you retain too much control, courts could argue retained dominion. But when a properly structured Cook Islands Trust, and we also do this in Belize, in Central America, and Nevis in the Caribbean, this shifts control to an independent trustee during litigation, and that trustee is legally bound by Cook Islands law, not by U.S. court orders. That doesn't mean litigation disappears. It means leverage changes, and litigation is often about leverage. Chapter 8, a composite case study I'm going to give you right now. So let me give you a composite example based on real patterns we've seen over 30 years. A client of ours, we'll call him Mark, owns 12 rental properties. You love my beautiful artistry here? Worth $9 million total. So he has $9 million worth of property and has $4 million in equity. He personally guaranteed 2 commercial loans. Now, before any issues arose, he placed each property into land trusts. Okay, every property is in a separate land trust. Okay, so imagine that with all these properties. He used state LLCs as the beneficiary of each trust. And we can extrapolate that to all the properties. So owned by a land trust, LLC is the beneficiary of the land trust. That way you have privacy of the land trust and the protection of an LLC. Next, we recorded strategic liens, mortgage liens, against all the properties. So those arrows would go to every property. Then we directed the proceeds into a Cook Islands LLC inside of the Cook Islands Trust. So 3 years later, a major tenant files a multi-million-dollar claim. Discovery reveals limited exposed equity in domestic properties. No direct ownership of offshore trust assets because they're owned by his offshore trust. Independent trustee control triggered. Settlement posture changes. Instead of a catastrophic payout, the case resolves within insurance limits. Now compare that to another composite case. David owns properties with his own name with no liens and cash sitting domestically. He's sued. Discovery reveals everything. Settlement demands reflect that exposure. Same lawsuit type, different outcome. Structure changes leverage. So if this kind of structure thinking is helpful, you can explore more detailed educational resources at assetprotectionplanners.com. There's no pressure, just information so you can evaluate your own exposure intelligently. Okay, now let's go ahead and continue. Chapter 9, the psychological component. Now, litigation isn't just legal, it's psychological. Plaintiffs' attorneys evaluate collectability, complexity, cost to pursue. If assets are easy to reach, pressure increases. If assets require foreign litigation, high burden of proof, and uncertain recovery, motivation shifts. That's not about evasion. That's about lawful positioning. And sophisticated families understand something that most people miss. You don't win lawsuits by arguing harder. You win by shifting leverage before the argument begins. Okay, Chapter 10, the calm waters principle. Now here's how we explain it to clients. When the waters are calm, you manage the LLC that sits inside of the offshore trust. You direct investments. You operate normally. Now when the storm hits, trustee control, the trust company, that's when that activates. Domestic pressure points reduce, jurisdiction shifts. It's a circuit breaker. And after 35 years in this field, I can tell you, the families who sleep well are the ones who planned early, not because they expect lawsuits, but because they understand exposure. Okay, Chapter 11, actionable takeaways. Now, let's make this practical. Ask yourself, if you were sued tomorrow, what assets are directly reachable? How much equity that you have is exposed? Are your entities structured properly? Do you personally guarantee debts? Is your liquidity domestic and visible? You don't need drama. You need clarity. So if you have between $1 million and $20 million in net worth, you're statistically more likely to be targeted than the average person. Success creates visibility. Visibility attracts scrutiny, and structure determines outcome. In closing, if you're sued tomorrow, what happens to your assets depends almost entirely on what you did before today. LLCs are usually not enough. Unencumbered equity creates leverage. Domestic control invites pressure. But lawful, proactive structuring, including equity positioning and properly designed offshore trust, changes the conversation. And for 35 years, I've watched the difference between reaction and preparation. Reaction is expensive. Preparation is strategic. And here's the final thought. The goal isn't to avoid responsibility. The goal is to avoid being economically destroyed by opportunistic litigation. And if you found this valuable, consider subscribing so you don't miss future deep dives into real-world asset protection strategies. We keep these practical, specific, and grounded in decades of experience because calm waters don't last forever. And the time to build your lifeboat is not when you see the wave. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.